Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today's post is about reparenting yourself. So a lot of us, well, most of us really, will have issues resulting from the way we were brought up. Even if you've got parents that have the best intentions, one way or another, they may not have met your needs. This then has effects later on in your life. It can result in having triggers or having certain ways of being, certain issues that when you're under stress or when you're hungry or tired or unbalanced, these things come out. Now, I've recently watched this amazing documentary, and I will include the link below in the comments. It really was mind-blowing. It is really more directed at parents. However, I think this information applies to everyone. And in this documentary, they talked about the need to reparent yourself. So to be able to go back to your younger self and say the things or do the things or even think about the things that you needed done that weren't done. So I'll give you a bit of an example of this that applies to me in my childhood. I was reflecting on this in the last couple of days. So I had parents who were fairly caught up in their own emotional needs, their own, problems. So when I had a tantrum at a regular developmental age that I was meant to be having those big emotions, I was put in a room. I was left to cry and cry and cry to the point where I would be so worked up that I would be almost vomiting. And when I was at this point, that I was so worked up and I was almost vomiting, I would be made fun of. I would be laughed and ridiculed because I was dry reaching. So this issue has then led to later on in life, probably, issues with me in terms of the ability for me to feel emotions and respect myself and have that tenderness and love and care for myself, because no one showed me that when I was at that age where those kind of behaviours are developmentally appropriate for that age. However, they were shamed in me. So part of my reparenting would be to go back to myself psychologically in my mind at that age and give myself a cuddle and the love and the care and do what I do with my daughter, which is to remind her that all those feelings are okay, that no matter what, I will love you. Give her a cuddle if she wants that, ask her if she wants a cuddle, and really support her through that time and feeling, rather than shutting her away in a space, shaming her and ridiculing and mocking her for her basically in her time of need, not being there for her. Another example that's come up for me is my parents were quite obsessed and anxious with external stuff. So if the house got out of order or there was mess and stuff like that, then that caused a big problem or a fight. And so, that has then come into my later experience in life where I get stressed about mess, or I feel like I need to keep on top of things so much so that I can't, that I've been able to sometimes just not let go and have fun until everything's done. Or if there's mess, I'm stressing over that. So, or, just that feeling of things needing to be perfect and perfection over the fun or over the inner work that needs to be done. So I would then go back to myself as a younger child and reflect on that and allow myself to, feel freedom in the mess and to have preference over emotional attunement and fun and connection, rather than everything needing to be in place and perfect and not allowing mess. So that process of reparenting myself and reminding myself that everything is okay if things are messy or things aren't in order, it's okay, and that it's actually better to be more attuned, have fun, be more in the moment, and to be more relaxed and less emotionally wound up and anxious than worrying about these small external things, and that in time those things will be cleaned and it'll be all okay. it's this idea of letting go. I've done some writing about it as well. So the idea of letting go of the need for control, which is really closely linked to anxiety. So yeah, so they're just some examples of the reparenting that I would need to go through based on my childhood experience. There's a lot of other examples for other people. People might have been shamed for being angry, and anger is a valid emotion, so then they've had to repress that emotion. So then if they feel like they're having a similar experience later on in life to that childhood experience, that anger will really bubble up and be extremely, over the top, and they'll be hypersensitive to things. So if you can think about what it was in your childhood that you didn't get, whether it was through your parents having addiction, or you may have lost a parent to death, or you may have even had like a really great upbringing. Maybe you had just some things that weren't met, some needs that weren't met, or maybe you didn't have as much deep conversation about things that you would have liked to. Maybe you had a parent that was eternally positive and didn't allow space for all the different shades of emotion. So there's so many different situations and so many different circumstances in which we grow up, and it's not to place blame on parents. It's not to to blame our parents because they've come from their own trauma from their parents, and their own childhood experiences, and it's passed down through generations. And I guess if each generation goes back and does that healing work in reparenting themselves, in going back to that inner child and thinking about what they needed in those times when they didn't get it, thinking about what needs they didn't get met as children, and healing that in themselves so that they then can live a better life, whether or not they have children, but particularly if you have children, so then you're not repeating those same mistakes to the next generation, and you're actually breaking cycles, and you're actually healing yourself and your own wounded inner child, so that you're not just passing on those same wounds generation to generation to generation. There's intergenerational trauma from racism, from events such as war, or all sorts of things, and these things need to be healed. These things need to be processed, and in order to break the cycle, there needs to be this process of reparenting oneself and looking at one's own inner child and those wounds, and really doing the work to overcome them, and go back in time and comfort that child that wasn't comforted. I'm going to do more about this. I think it's a really interesting topic, the process of reparenting, so that we can live happier and more fulfilled lives. And I think that, if you've got any comments about it, give me a DM or comment below about what you feel about reparenting yourself and the process, and whether you've got any insights. I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, please do so. It really helps me out. Like, share, comment, all the stuff, and we'll keep going with these chats. And I really appreciate your time and your attention. And yeah, keep going forward in your life. Keep healing yourself. Keep being kind to yourself. Teach yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself, and you can live a happy, fulfilled, grounded, peaceful, joyful life that you deserve. Thanks.